All right, it has taken 18 long NFL weeks. The season was great, but we're finally here. It is NFL playoff season. It is January. This is what we work for the playoffs. And this year, it seems like it's different than a bunch of other years we've seen in the NFL. So many teams have an opportunity to go out there and actually win the championship. No juggernaut, no team I'm looking at and saying that's the number one team I think will win it. There's a handful of teams that could go out there, make a name for themselves, and get a Lombardi. And there's a lot of stories, a lot of players where it would mean a lot for them to get this trophy. So it's going to be amazing this next month and a half of football. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be the best we've watched. So stay tuned in. We're back. It's JV Show, a recurring guest on the show all year long, my boy Steve. You know I had to bring him back. Steve, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Very good to see you. Thanks for joining me for this huge wild card episode. We're breaking down all 6 wild card games for this week. How you doing, brother?
Dude, I still don't have a Super Bowl pick. You're kind of talking about how there's no juggernaut. I don't have a Super Bowl pick.
Me
I got to
neither.
make one soon before Saturday so I don't make one in hindsight. But this is going to be a fun playoff, man. Like you said, no dynasty. Chiefs are gone. Josh Allen's in it, but we're going to talk about it in a minute. But the Bills, your Bills, they don't feel as strong. The Eagles are the reigning champs, but they don't feel like this unbeatable force that's like inevitable that's going to win it again. So there's some teams in there. I'm talking about you, Carolina. But it doesn't feel like there's a guaranteed team that's going to go to the Super Bowl. And I think that's what the playoffs should be. You shouldn't have the end of the story already written before you open the book.
Like I said, there are, I want to say 8, 9, maybe 10 teams I could genuinely sit down, research, and make an argument for to actually win the Super Bowl and for it to be legitimate. Like you said, like Carolina, with all due respect, and we're jumping into things right away here, but I just don't see it, and we'll talk about that game against the Rams. But you can make an argument for at least 8 to 10 teams here to go all the way, and I think that's what makes this playoff picture so fascinating, so entertaining. So we're going through all 6 games today. I do want to shout out my sponsor for the year, Big Third Down Shop. Link is in my bio to go shop their hats. This JV show on is a perfect example. Embroidered, fits great, looks great. Go check them out and get yourself an NFL hat for whatever playoff team or regular season team you support. I guess if you're a Raiders fan, number 1 pick, that's huge. You can go support them. So the link is in my bio. Go shop the hat. Steve, we got 6 games. We'll jump right into it. We talked about the Panthers right away. Let's go right into it. Los Angeles Rams at the Carolina Panthers. It's kind of unique how this whole division thing works out. I don't mind the NFL divisions, but I think you keep the divisions and then it's record after that going into the playoffs. Because to me, it just doesn't seem right for the Panthers to host a playoff game. Like, what do you think about that?
You know, it does feel weird when you always get that like 500 or below team that just has way more losses than the team they're playing, but they're hosting the game. And, you know, you've seen it with the Seattle and the Beastquake, the Tim Tebow year against the Steelers. But, you know, I think you have to allow it. It doesn't happen as often as some people make it out to seem when they argue that they should get rid of this. Because my thing is, it's like, if we're going to get rid of, you know, teams winning divisions, hosting a playoff game, then we might as well just get rid of the divisions. Like, what benefit does having a division have on a team other than you play a team more often than any other team because they're closer to you, so it eases on travel? Like, there's no reward for winning your division other than people say, oh, you get an automatic playoff bid. But it's like, dude, if you win your division, 99.9% of the time, you're, like, already in the playoffs. So, like, the auto bid doesn't work. Maybe in some years, like, a Carolina won't get in because I remember last year Seattle was, like, 10-7, didn't make the playoffs. So maybe one of those years it doesn't happen. But I'm all for rewarding your division and you winning. It makes divisions, it makes rivalries, it makes those division games mean more, right? Like Philly, like Steelers versus Baltimore. It's division rivals, but that game meant a lot more because ticket to the playoffs was on the line, but they were going to host that game the following week in Pittsburgh. So I think you remove that, you remove a lot of the novelty and the charm and uniqueness that the NFL has.
Well, like you said, like that Steelers-Ravens game, it just doesn't happen. And then you got Bears-Packers. I mean, put aside all the great storylines, that's the game I want to watch. Saturday night, division rivalry, you never know what's going to happen. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Rams-Panthers, to me, it's pretty clear who I have picked to win this game. This is one of the more obvious ones. Now, I have nothing against Carolina here, but the Rams outright are just the more talented, more experienced team. Let's look at the Rams first. Just a few quick stats for everybody. We'll outline this for every team. 12-5, they finished second in their division. First in points per game this year with 30.5. 10th in points against at 20.4. Steve, here are a few of my thoughts on the Rams going into the playoffs. Their strength is going to be the offensive firepower. Matthew Stafford, arguably the MVP this year, definitely a front runner for the award. 4,700 yards passing, 46 touchdowns. He's had a phenomenal season, and his playoff resume when he arrived in LA, it's been pretty elite. He's won a Super Bowl there. He's shown us he can do it on the biggest stage. You got Puka Nacua, your do-it-all receiver. He pretty much does everything for the offense. Goes deep, over the middle. You can count on him to move the chains. And then Davante Adams has been huge for the red zone production. He leads the NFL in receiving touchdowns at 14. And you'll see when they get down to the 1-yard line, there's no handoffs. It's just a red zone fade to Davante Adams, which I love personally. I love the play if you have the personnel to do it. Their weakness is their secondary. To me, I don't think their secondary is very good, despite what some stats might say, what might not say. That's a weakness on this team, but I do think that their pass rush can be good enough with Verse and Young to put pressure on the QB and kind of mask that weakness, which is done at points this year. I think the X factor in this game for this Rams team is Byron Young. He leads the team with 12 sacks on the season. That's inside the top 10 on the year. Him and Jared Verse, like I said, that's going to be the focal point of this defense, especially against Bryce Young, inexperienced QB, to kind of get him uncomfortable early on. And we know Bryce Young, Steve, when he gets out of rhythm, it's really hard to reel him back in. And when you do, it's fourth quarter and the game's already over. So I'm comfortably taking the Rams. I'll talk about the Panthers right away. But what are your thoughts on the Rams for the entire playoffs, I guess, but this game specifically?
Well, in this game, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm taking the Rams. I don't think anyone outside of Carolina is picking Carolina because the Rams, they're a Super Bowl team. Right? I mean, you're talking about the number one scoring offense, like you said. They got this quarterback who's arguably the MVP in the league. He's won a Super Bowl alongside of his head coach. They're going to have more experience than anyone on that field in Carolina, and they get Davante Adams back, the guy that you said they could throw all those cheat code goal line fades to. So, the X factor is their defense. You can pick whatever player. I'm just going to say the defense as a whole, particularly their secondary because it hasn't been good, and their special teams. I mean, they fired their special teams coordinator a couple weeks ago because he's giving them problems. They did lose in Carolina to this team, so I'm not going to act like that didn't happen. That's on the Rams' resume, even though I do think the Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL. They gave up 31 points to Bryce Young, 3 touchdowns from Bryce Young. That is absolutely unacceptable. So if the Rams, whoever it is, if Verse wants to have a big sack game, if any of their corners just want to hold on to Tet McMillan's jersey and not let him break for a 60-yard go route, they reduce 31 points to 20. This Rams high-powered offense isn't going to have any problems winning this game then.
Well, I think it's important to note, if I was arguing for Carolina, I'd simply say the Rams finished the season 3-3. They're by no means the hottest team in the NFL to finish the year, although Week 18 was pretty big for them. Stafford stat pads for his MVP, 4 TDs, that's cool. They haven't necessarily been the greatest to close out the season. The Atlanta game, another one, you're just scratching your head. For Carolina to win the game, they need Matthew Stafford to turn the ball over multiple times, and Bryce Young has to play lights out pretty much for the entire playoff run. And those are 2 really big asks for both quarterbacks. Bryce Young under the bright lights, who's been the most inconsistent QB all year long, and then the MVP or potential MVP Matthew Stafford to have a piss-poor performance or turn the ball over. And I just don't see that happening. It is important to note, though, Steve, like you said, the Panthers did take them down in Week 13, I want to say. When you look at Bryce Young in that game, 75% completion percentage, 200 yards, 3 TDs, no interceptions, 147 passer rating. I mean, it was unreal. His best game of the year. If he can replicate that, They got a shot for sure, but I'm still taking the Rams unless there's some miracle that goes on in Carolina. I do think Tat's had a great year. He's up there for Offensive Rookie of the Year, although I feel like the awards are always geared towards quarterbacks, so Shuck and Dart will probably be up there leading the award race. I do think the X factor for the Panthers is Rico Dowdle. He's such a versatile running back, such a versatile threat for this team. His stats on the year, over 1,000 rushing yards plus 300 receiving yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, another receiving touchdown. He's had a phenomenal year. From weeks 5 to 6, he averaged 236.5 yards per game. And the Panthers outscored their average points per game by 10 in those games. He is an X factor, and the offense has to run through him, especially with an inconsistent quarterback like Bryce Young. You need to lean on the run game. The defense has been surprisingly all right this season, all things considered. I think they're ranked, I believe, like 18th or 15th in points against. The offense 27th in points for. So clearly the offensive inconsistencies are going to cost them. They have a shot at home, I guess. I'll give them that. But I don't see it, man. Like, do you even see a world where this Panthers team can win multiple games in the playoffs?
Vegas has the line at 10.5. It was at least last time I checked, and that was last night. So that means absolutely no way. When you see 10.5 in the playoffs, that is very unlikely an upset's happening. Yeah. But my X factor in this one is actually Bryce Young. And you kind of talked about it, but I have written in my notes. Panthers have a shot if he has a clean game. What did he have in the game where they did beat the Rams in Carolina? You went down the stats, but 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Outplayed Matt Stafford, who had 2 picks. So as the inexperienced quarterback, I mean, he's played in some national championships. I'm not going to act like he hasn't played in some bright lights games, but, he's still the younger quarterback compared to Mr. Super Bowl winner on the other sideline. If he can have a clean game where, you can add in Rico Dowdle, taking some pressure off his shoulders, but can find Ted on some of those goal balls and taking advantage of the Rams' corners, he can have the 3 touchdown, like 6 incompletions against the Rams' defense. That just lets Bryce Young settle into the game and not feel completely outmatched and overwhelmed by the experience and the IQ in the Super Bowl of the Los Angeles Rams. So I don't think they have a shot, but, nothing's impossible in sports. And these are professional athletes at the end of the day. So they technically have a chance. If they were going to have a chance, it's if Bryce Young looks like the number 1 overall pick and not the guy who got benched for Andy Dalton last season.
Exactly. And you know what? Looking at his stats, Steve, 4 games above an 100 passer rating, 3 games below a 50 passer rating. Like, how much more inconsistent? I saw a comment. It was like, Bryce Young chooses to either be Peyton Manning or Jamarcus Russell. Like, there's no in between. The guy gives you one or the other. It's completely boom bust. But I do think what the offense can do to help him, obviously, get Rico, get Chuba going, get Tet in the mix very early, get him in rhythm. And then on the defensive side, if Derek Brown, Nick Scorton can come out, make a play, they've both had phenomenal years. Maybe it can happen, but again,
it's the crowd behind it too.
Exactly. Like, that's all I'm giving them. I still think the Rams win this easily. They deserve it for the year they've had, to be a wild card team, to have a little bit of an easier, lighter matchup in the wild card game. I'm taking the Rams. You are too. Let's flip to Packers at Chicago. Yeah. They split the series. I personally think the Packers should have won both games. By the miracle of God, the Bears kind of just get a little lucky. Caleb Williams throws a phenomenal ball in overtime. I'm not denying that. Few things did go their way. Chicago's got the crowd Saturday night. Let's talk Packers first. 9-7-1 on the season, second in the NFC North, 16th in points for, points against 11th. I would love this team a lot more if they were healthy, but a lot of injuries late in the season just cost them, and it's really unfortunate. I like LaFleur. I like Jordan Love, but it's going to be tough to overcome that. Now, this game, it's up in the air. It's 50-50 for me, but moving forward in the playoffs, I just think there are better teams, and the injuries will catch up to them. The Packers, for me, strength, it can be their quarterback play, kind of. Like, I love Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is a phenomenal quarterback. He should have been a Pro Bowl quarterback or should have had that recognition. He's had a phenomenal season. especially considering they still haven't figured out their number one receiver situation. I thought he had a pretty clean year, limited the turnovers for 6 interceptions. That cut his total in half from these past few seasons. The only issue is that in his 3 playoff games he's played, he's thrown 5 interceptions. That's not good. Like, you can turn the ball over and turn the game away, and that's what he's done for the most part. So while Jordan Love can be a strength for the Packers, he can also be a huge weakness and cost them games. And without Micah Parsons, a game changer at edge, who is getting the pressure on the quarterback, now the Packers, who were already only averaging 2.1 sacks per game, 20th in the league, without that presence, it's like Jordan Love has to play his best football. They need a big game from Rashawn Gary. He needs to play phenomenal. But even more so, it's got to be Jordan Love. It's got to be Jordan Love to Christian Watson. Christian Watson's my X factor in this game. When he gets the ball, when they find him downfield, they usually win games.
Well, the X factor coming into the season for the Packers was Micah Parsons, the guy they were going to unleash in January and February when they're battling in these games to go get that big sack on 3rd and 4th down. Now he's gone. And I don't like this team. Vegas likes this team. You're talking about how it's pretty much an even game. The lines are pretty much even technically, but the Packers do have that 1.5 point favorite here on the spread. And I don't agree. I think the Bears should be the favorites in this game at home. Maybe Vegas knows something I don't. I always think Vegas is smarter than me, but I just haven't liked Green Bay since their X factor, Micah Parsons, went down. They are on a 4-game losing streak. And their defense, post-Micah, during this losing streak, they're giving up 28 points per game. They did lose in the clutch to Caleb Williams at home. And so, I mean, you can't really say they had Malik Willis because Malik Willis looked like a pretty good quarterback in those games. And I'm a big believer in how you enter the playoffs matter. Like, if you're slugging into the playoffs, that's a big red flag to me. And the Packers quite literally limping. Jordan Love's returning. Micah Parsons gone. So I like the Bears in this one. I don't think you can sleep on the Packers, of course. This is going to be maybe the best game of the entire first round. I can't wait to watch this game. It's going to be that cold NFC North playoff game that the NFL dreams about. Like, this is what we tell NFL stories of here, that, these are like the historic classic games of the 40s and 50s. I just don't like this team post Micah Parsons. What about you?
I'm in agreement, Steve. I think with the Bears at home, the home crowd, I'm a big believer, not just about how you enter the playoffs, but momentum and storyline plays a huge role. I felt like last year the Commanders were a perfect example. They had all this momentum. Jaden Daniels, phenomenal rookie year. They're going to be the upset team. They're going to play spoiler. For me this year in the NFC, that's been the Chicago Bears. A lot of people rallying around them, a franchise that hasn't had a lot of success recently. Now you got Caleb Williams, this flashy, talented quarterback. Ben Johnson comes in, high expectations, and they're delivering. And I feel like a lot of people have not just hopped on this Bears bandwagon, but they want to see them succeed this season. And with the fans behind them, I find it hard to believe the Packers can go in there with the injuries they've had, take them down, but it's going to be a good game. My question about the Packers for you, Steve, before I talk about the Bears, is do you trust Jordan Love in the playoffs? Because he had a great year. I mean, numbers-wise, he performed up to expectations, I think, all things considered, with this supporting cast, but there always is that playoff concern of he does turn the ball over. He does make poor decisions. He does make bad mistakes, which cost this team. I always think of that interception in that Niners game just across the middle, and I'm just like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah, listen, Jordan Love is unreal talent. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in this league. But yeah, it's his first playoff run, but throwing across your body, middle of the field against the 49ers when you had the chance to go to the NFC Championship game was ugly. Then last year in Philadelphia, I don't think you can get uglier than that when he had 3 interceptions. I don't. I don't trust him. Let me take that back. I want to say I want to trust him. But I'm just iffy. Maybe that's just me saying I don't trust him. But I just have a hard time seeing where maybe he does, but just in the back of my head, I just see just a reckless play in the fourth quarter where the Packers, he's very Brett Favre. Brett Favre used to do that all the time in the postseason, even when he went down to Minnesota, where you think about the game against the Saints in the NFC Championship game when he's, a chance to win the game, and he just throws that middle of the field crossbody, and that's in the DNA of Jordan Love as a quarterback. And I want to say I want to trust him because I think, they have a good back, good receivers, offensive coach. But money, USD on him in that moment, I think I'm going to pass.
I feel the same way about Sam Darnold, too. You talked about it on your show, Steve. I have nothing wrong with Jordan Love and Sam Darnold, and we're not going to talk about the Seahawks today. They're not playing in a game this week. We'll get to them next week. But it's quarterbacks that I've seen turn the ball over, have poor playoff performances that I'd love to trust. It's just I can't yet because I haven't seen it. And when you get to the playoffs, they're a little bit of a different beast. And when you're dealing with that, it's hard for me to put money, put my trust, put my faith, put my word on Jordan Love, who's had these weird mistakes happen, weird decisions that have cost his team the game at some points. When you look at the Bears, 11-6 this season, they lead their division. They win the NFC North. What a season. 9th in points for at 25.9 per game, 23rd in points allowed. So the Packers might have a day offensively. We'll see how that goes. I think the strength of this Bears team is their quarterback and their backfield. Caleb Williams can take over games. We've yet to see him in a playoff atmosphere. So I'm not going to say I trust him any more than I trust Jordan Love because we haven't seen it. But I've seen him in the regular season do some phenomenal things, arguably the best quarterback on the run in the NFL right now. And the backfield with Monangai and Swift, what Ben Johnson has done back there is revolutionary. He has completely changed the motto of this team from kind of a poor backfield, poor rushing attack last year to now DeAndre Swift running for over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns on the year. Kyle Monangai, damn near 800 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. Up front, they sent multiple offensive linemen to the Pro Bowl. That's what they need to lean on in this playoff game, through this playoff run in cold games. At Soldier Field, they need to lean on the run game and get them started. Caleb Williams can take over on the side, third, fourth quarter when you need it. I do think their weakness right now, Steve, is their secondary. Pretty much damn everybody. Like, I know they have the turnover numbers. I know they have some flashy interception numbers, but their secondary and the health, it just concerns me. They were toasted to close out the season. They allowed 266 passing yards per game to close the season, their last 3 games. That's 4th worst in the NFL. I think the X factor in this game, a little bit out there, is Tyreek Stevenson. I think the Bears' X factor is Tyreek Stevenson because their secondary has been lackluster to close the year. Jalen Johnson, he is nursing a groin injury. His top-end speed is no match for quick receivers. And Deshaun Wright, his interception numbers are cool, but he's bad in coverage. They're going to need someone to step in. So whether it's Stevenson, whether it's somebody in the secondary, you need to step up because you're playing Christian Watson, one of the better deep threats in the league. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. That list just gets more elite and more elite as you advance through the playoffs. So for the Bears, I'm taking the Bears in this game with the home field advantage, with the storyline, but they have some weaknesses they need to address as they progress through this playoff run.
Yeah. For me, my Bears X factor is DJ Moore. Looking at these numbers here, when they lost at Green Bay, 1 reception, 3 targets, -4 yards. Might have gotten hurt in that game, if my memory is correct. But in the win they got in Chicago, 5 receptions, 7 targets, 97 receiving yards in that game-winning touchdown. He's going to be huge. Like I said, the Packers' defense post-Micah has not been good at all during this 4-game losing streak. They're giving up a ton of points, and Caleb Williams did not get sacked at all against Green Bay in the game against Chicago. So if Caleb Williams, if they want to attack this Green Bay defense, DJ Moore has to be the guy who just has a big game. I think he has to have a big game. If Caleb Williams is going to have all the time in the world, DJ Moore has to have a game where he just gets open for a couple slants or maybe a go ball and just breaks this game open in the fourth quarter. Because, listen, Caleb Williams, it's easy to say that he needs to be the X factor because I think for them to win this game, he needs to be Iceman. But Iceman, he needs DJ Moore. And I think if DJ Moore can come alive, can get locked into this game and get open for Caleb Williams and make it easy, because I don't think Caleb Williams is a particularly accurate quarterback. And so if he can just get open for Caleb like he did on that game-winning touchdown against this Packers defense that isn't particularly great, then I like the Bears in this one.
Well, whether it's DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, somebody's going to have to make a play. And the great thing about Chicago is they have those weapons. It's all about Caleb. But I also do think they can win when Caleb plays average, like they did against Philly. Caleb didn't necessarily have a lights-out game, but he did make a pass to close out the game, win it for them on that drive. So I do think they have a little bit more room to move. The great thing about Caleb, too, is not only is the O-line great, but his sack evasion all year throughout his career has just been phenomenal. So I think without the pressure that Green Bay puts on Caleb, a little bit more time to process the field, I like Chicago here with the home field advantage. We're both the same here in these back-to-back games. Let's go Bills at the Jags, Sunday afternoon, third game. I'm extremely nervous.
This is your team.
I'm extremely nervous. Obviously, I am picking the Buffalo Bills. I expect the Buffalo Bills to go all the way, but that's just the fan in me. I don't think I can go to bed at night resting my head on my pillow with Josh Allen healthy starting and saying I don't pick the Bills as a fan. I just don't think that's right. I don't care if it's bias. It is what it is. We finished 12-5, second in the division, unfortunately. Points for were fourth this year. Pretty solid. James Cook had himself a phenomenal season. Josh Allen will always be great. Points against 12th with only allowing 21.5 points per game. Unfortunately, we've never won on the road in the playoffs with McDermott. That's an issue. We're 0-5. That is a huge problem. But we're playing in the wild card where Josh Allen thrives in good weather, hopefully, unless it's raining in Jacksonville. We're playing in healthy weather. Josh Allen's going to have the ball. No rain, no snow, no cold. It's a good situation for Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. He's had a great year. We can count on Josh Allen to show up. We need James Cook to be the leader of this offense. He led the league in rushing yards this year. He's a phenomenal rushing back. We were the best rushing offense in yards per game. The Buffalo Bills, number one at 160 rushing yards per game this season. That needs to be the focus. Our weakness, it's pressure on the quarterback. Our secondary statistically hasn't been that bad this year, although I keep saying I'm not sold. Like, we have playmakers, but we can get exposed. That can all be fixed if we make some game-changing plays. My X factor is Joey Bosa. He's got 5 sacks on the year. He leads the NFL quietly in forced fumbles with 5. If he can make a game-changing play in all 4 of our games, or Greg Rousseau makes a game-changing play at some point, we can win these games. We need to put pressure on Trevor Lawrence, who doesn't have the sexiest playoff resume. We can make it happen, but it's tough. I love the Jags. They're a well-rounded team, probably the most refined and hottest team heading into the playoffs.
I think this is where our first disagreement is.
It has to be.
I'm taking Jacksonville. Interesting enough, the Jags are home dogs in this game. That says a lot about Josh Allen. But the Jags are home dogs, because this is one of the very first bets I've ever hit in my life, was the Jags were home dogs in 22 to the Chargers, and they won. And I think a similar situation, not like how the game script's going to play out, but where the Jags come out on top at home in a wild card weekend game. Because, JV, as much as I want to take your Bills, because of the Josh Allen factor, I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback in football. He is one of, if not the best playoff performer in the league right now. But football is the ultimate team sport. And the Jags simply are a better team right now. Their momentum, 8-game winning streak, both sides of the ball, just plain better, in my opinion, right now, this second, than the Buffalo Bills. I mean, their quarterback in this 8-game winning streak's got 24 total touchdowns. And you brought up the weather as perfect conditions for the Bills. It's also perfect conditions for this Jags offense to continue what they're going. A lot better, a lot more ideal than going up to snowy Buffalo and having Trevor Lawrence try to throw for 3 touchdowns, because that likely wasn't going to happen. X factor in this game, you said Joey Bosa. I can say Bosa as well. I'm just going to say the entire defense. Sean McDermott in his side of the ball. Because, JV, you know this more than anyone. When this Bills defense in January is not playing Skylar Thompson or Mason Rudolph, they're giving up over 30 points a game to Joe Burrow and to Patrick Mahomes, and that has always been their death sentence. It's not Josh Allen. When the Bills die every year, you'll never see on their obituary, oh, Josh Allen came up short. I saw Josh Allen put like 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and they still lost with the lead with 13 seconds. And it's because the defense can't get a stop. And this is why I'm not buying the Bills in this game, because as much as I want to bet on Allen, I'm usually like, just take the better quarterback and you'll figure it out. Their defense in the postseason is so bad against Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. I think the way Trevor Lawrence is playing, because he's my X factor in this game, the way he's playing right now, he's going to be able to get it done. And I say he's my X factor because, it's easy to say the quarterback's the X factor, but what Trevor Lawrence are they going to get? Right? Are they going to get the number 1 pick, generational, next Andrew Luck, John Elway, or are they going to get the underwhelming guy who, these last couple of years? Well, he's looked like the number 1 pick I promised back in 2021 with 24 total touchdowns in his last 8 games. And to me, to beat Josh Allen in the playoffs, Burrow had to do it, Mahomes had to do it. You have to have a pretty good game. Like, I'm talking 3-4 touchdowns out of you to beat Josh Allen, because Allen on the other side of the field is going to do the same thing. And so a lot of points are going to be scored in this game. But to me, I just don't like this Bills defense. And when you have on top of that the receiving core of the Bills, it's going to get hard for them. I think it will. So give me the Jags.
I don't love our receiving core either. But the reality is Josh Allen himself has often been enough offensively to take this team to the places it needs to be. But it is the defense that consistently falls short. The thing I'll say about Josh Allen that scares me, and this has nothing at all to do with his performance or upcoming performance, but Joe Burrow, Lamar, and Mahomes all missed the playoffs. And to me, it's like, all right, it's a bad feeling in my stomach of like, this is the moment. And it's
because
like,
if not now, win. If not now, win.
Exactly. And you know what? I don't buy into the narrative of there's no excuses, because there are a lot of good teams in this playoff picture, but it doesn't feel great. But I am going Bills here, but I do like the Jags. We did just see Harbaugh fired, Steve, so I will say that about McDermott. If this game is a loss in Buffalo, I will lose my mind about McDermott, because it's going to end in the way I believe it is. We are terrible against the run this year, and Travis Etienne, not the best back in the league, but a very talented back that can tear us apart. 1,100 yards, 7 TDs on the season. The Jags, for the record, finished 13-4, 6th in points for, 8th in points against. They haven't lost a game since Week 10, which was November 9th. Since trading for Jacoby Myers, 8-1. He's been huge for this offense. Like you said, Trevor Lawrence, his last 6 weeks of football, I'll read you the averages, 266 yards per game, 2.5 passing touchdowns per game, 0.17 interceptions per game, and an average passer rating of 112. He's playing by far the best football of his career. But then again, to your point, Steve, what Trevor Lawrence do we get? Do we get these last 6 weeks of Trevor Lawrence, or the Trevor Lawrence that, to his credit, got them a 28-point comeback, but also threw 4 interceptions and 5 interceptions in his only playoff run? I think the big difference this year, the difference maker, the X factors, it's going to be Liam Cohen and the weapons he's got. Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington has quietly led this team in receiving yards. I think he will be a huge playmaker, difference maker for this team. 5 touchdowns on the season. It all really depends on the performance of Trevor Lawrence, but they're a well-rounded team. If he can play a good game, the defense is solid, they're at home. I like the weather because Josh Allen gets his, opportunity to play in perfect weather. But to your point again, Steve, it's like I would much rather them come to the cold.
Yep.
A Florida team, we know how a team like Miami plays in the cold. Jacksonville, I wouldn't expect much different. Yes, they're probably a better football team, but it's tough to make that transition. So it's good that Jacksonville gets that home field advantage. I'm going Bills here because you're delusional if you think I'd go anywhere elsewhere. You're going Jags, fair enough. Again, I do want to mention that they are the most well-rounded team I've seen, and they have the most heat coming into the playoffs. And if they can finish at Josh Allen, because I believe they're 3rd in pressures on the QB this year, but like 27th in sacks. If they can finish, it's pretty much game over. So we'll see what happens. I don't mind it going either way, but I have to go with the Bills as a fan.
Well, I
Let's
mean,
go.
dude, really quickly, I'm looking at the bracket, they beat Buffalo, then they get Patriots, Chargers. They get an inexperienced quarterback or a team without their tackles. They could go to the Super Bowl, or at the very least the AFC Championship, if they win this game. And to your point, you said it earlier, if this is another year where they go on the road and McDermott's defense gets 30 hung on them and they don't show up, he absolutely has to be fired.
Well, dude, I'm literally just reading a text that came through from one of my buddies, Big E, and he's like, it's y'all's year. And I'm like, dog, come on. Like, I love the Bills, but I've been saying all year I'm very skeptical about this team. And I hope we win. Like, that's all I got to say. As a fan, from a fan's perspective, it will tear me apart. But maybe that's the end of McDermott's time in Buffalo if we lose this game. The defense has to come up big. With Jacksonville's offense being this hot going into the postseason, there's no other way. There's no other way that we win. Josh Allen, James Cook, they'll do their thing, but man, I'm hoping. I'm going to be stressing. I might not come out with the post on Sunday night. I'll tell you that much if we lose. Let's go Niners at Philly, Steve. Sunday afternoon, game 4 of the playoff section this weekend. Unfortunately, I believe the last time they played was that NFC Conference Championship game in the playoffs, I'm talking, where Brock Purdy got injured. I don't know if they played. Really? I believe so, in the playoffs. And again this year, it just feels like an unfair battle health-wise. The Niners on the season, 12-5, pretty miraculous what they did, all things considered with their injuries. They're 10th in points for, 13th in points against. They lost the division last week, Week 18 against the Seahawks in a heartbreaker at home. That is very, very difficult to settle with. Ultimately, the strength of this Niners team is Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan and the experience that they have. And CMC. CMC is the game changer. He's the guy you run your offense through. And Brock Purdy, who is on pace to have an MVP season statistically, is a well-known playoff performer. He's never had a game below an 85 passer rating. He's also never lost in the playoffs besides the Super Bowl in games that he has started and finished. He's a good playoff performer, but at the same time, he's never had so little around him. I don't think his teams have ever been offensively this deprived of talent solely due to injury. You look at the injuries that they've had, your Trent Williams, who I hope he does play in this game, your Ricky Pearsalls, your Brandon Ayuk's, who hasn't played all year long. And that's what it boils down to for me, Steve. It's the weakness in the health department. So many guys defensively just not on the field. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, cornerstones for this defense that you would love to be out there, and that could really make this Niners team not only the number 1 seed, but a potential Super Bowl favorite. It's tough against a really good Eagles defense when your O-line might be a little beat up, when your defense is a lot of bend, don't break, hopefully, to match up. I don't love Philly's offense, so that's the only saving grace. And if Brock Purdy has a freaking day, they can take down Philly. Philly isn't unbeatable, but what they need their X-Factor Trent Williams to step up, stop all the edge pressure that the Eagles bring. They're great on the interior as well. Give Brock Purdy time, and he's going to have to make something happen with CMC. Unfortunately, I'm going Philly in this game. I hate the fan base. I hate everybody in Philly, but they are the healthier team in this case, Steve.
Yep, absolutely. I said earlier in the Packers game, don't like when you're limping in the playoffs. This 49ers defense is rolling out you and me. And even offensively these last couple of weeks, minus the Seattle game, you're kind of watching Brock Purdy wheel and deal. You're like, 49ers might be the best team in the NFC. And then you just watch, 24 points to Cam Ward, 27 to Phillip Rivers, 38 to Caleb, 13 to Darnold. Could have been 19 had their kicker made a couple field goals. Then you're like, this defense cannot win multiple playoff games. Maybe if they would have had a better draw, they got a bye or something like that, you might have liked their chances to advance. But to get the Eagles, as weird of a season they've had in Philly as the reigning champs, I'm taking the Eagles in this one because of the 49ers defense. Even if CMC, Brock Purdy, George Kittle, Pearsall, whoever's healthy, comes alive in this game, the Eagles have Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith if they need to turn up. I will say, though, the 49ers' X factor is their defense. But offensively, they do need to come alive big time in this game because of their defense. And given how weird of a season Philly has had, if you catch their offense sleeping on the right night where Hurts isn't as sharp, they can't feed A.J. Brown, Saquon's bottled up and can't bust a big 60-yarder to save the day, then they could have a chance in this game. Then you're like, okay, if they can make it like the Chicago game where they win like 38-35, then that's probably how they're going to win. Because I just don't see a world where their offense doesn't show up like it did against Seattle and they still find a way to go on the road and beat Philly with all the talent has in Philadelphia.
We can do a bunch of what ifs, and I'll do one. Like, if the Niners were the number 1 seed and they had a few week break where they could get healthy and they had the home field advantage, I would like them a lot more. But like you said, the defense, the injuries, it's just hard to overcome that. But this is a winnable game because Philly has not been a juggernaut this year. The offense, it is not that good at all. Like, talent-wise, they're phenomenal. They're loaded. They have guys everywhere. They've paid guys everywhere. But this year, the production, there's just something off, whether you attribute that to the play calling, to the play of Jalen Hurts, to the offensive line, whatever it is, whatever your excuse is, it hasn't been great. So the defense has been the thing that they've fallen back on. But like you said, if you catch them kind of sleeping early on, you put up a quick 20 points, this Eagles offense, it is very difficult for them to carve you down the field drive after drive. But I am taking them just because of their experience. It's 2 experienced coaching staffs going back and forth. Shanahan, a great play caller, although he does have his drawbacks in the big moments. He's been really solid throughout the playoffs. The Eagles really are just the healthier team, more talented team right now. 11-6 on the year. They won their division. Like I said, offensively concerning, 19th in points for, but points against their 5th.
Is not good.
It's not, but their defense is good enough. They're kind of built like a lot of AFC teams, I would say. Their strength, obviously, Vic Fangio, that defensive unit. The front 4 is elite. The linebackers, you got studs. Hopefully, Nakobe Dean can play a healthy, strong game. He'll be crucial for that defense. And then the secondary, obviously, with Quignon, Cooper DeJean, they're set as their cornerstone pieces. The weakness is the offensive production, Steve. Point blank, Jalen Hurts, he's a great playoff performer, but this year it's been on and off. Very concerning, the passing game with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, underwhelming season passing-wise. Saquon Barkley is my X factor. Not only in this game, but throughout the playoffs. This is a guy you paid in the offseason. He deserved it. I'm not denying that. You paid him the money. This is exactly why you gave him the bag. Because last year he went out in the playoffs and won you games by himself. He won you the Super Bowl. Despite what the stats say, they load the box, they open up one-on-one matchups. The rest is history. If you want to win the games in the playoffs that matter, Saquon Barkley is going to have to be a game changer. He's going to have to bust a 60 to 80-yard rushing touchdown like he did against the Rams in a crucial game to win it all. That's it. He's got to be the X factor. I don't care what happened in the regular season. You got to come alive here. I hate Philly, but I'm going Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say because you pretty much said what I wanted to say. Saquon, I've written down as my X factor too. Philly's offense from last year to this year is 5 points worse, and it's big part is because Saquon Barkley just hasn't been able to break off those huge runs. But in the playoffs last year, in the snow against the Rams, huge game. You feel like he needs one in this one because San Francisco's offense has been really good this year. And if they can come out guns blazing, get Philly on their toes where they just got to abandon the run game and put the pressure on Jalen Hurts' shoulders, that's a game you want advantage in 49ers' favor. But I don't think it's going to happen because of what you said earlier. This Philadelphia Eagles defense is really good. It's one of the better units in the league. You're talking about the front with Jalen Carter and company, then the linebackers with Zach Bond, and then the secondary with DeJean. This is a heck of a unit that has the Super Bowl experience. Remember what they did to Patrick Mahomes? And then now they come to the playoffs another year later where if they're all over this 49ers offense, I think they can kind of put this game away early.
And this is the perfect situation for Philly to kickstart the run game because San Francisco last week, I'm just talking solely last week, if you watched the Week 18 game, Seattle did whatever they wanted on the ground. Charbonnet, K9, they feasted. The D-line just wasn't a match for them. They don't put great pressure on the quarterback. And running-wise, I mean, the Seahawks just did whatever. So if the Eagles want to get the run game going, if they want some momentum for Barkley, this is where it is. I even believe, if I'm recalling this correctly, in the Commanders game, he either opened up the game or the second half with a huge run in that one as well in the conference championship. Those are the plays you need from this guy.
Well, I think they scored like 55 points in that game. So.
Exactly. It's like you just they're must-haves from a guy that you've paid, a running back that you invested in. I'm not questioning his talent. It's just he's going to be the game changer because Hurts, he's a great moments guy, but to win 4 games with his arm, even in the playoffs, even with how good he is, it does get a little bit dicey because his arm isn't necessarily on the level of the elites. Talking about elite arms, though, Steve, Chargers at the Patriots, Herbert versus Drake May. They are both my X factors for each team. It's going to be an interesting game because it could both be a blowout and honestly a really intense Sunday nighter. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how the Patriots match up against the playoff team. That's been their biggest critique all year long. They've had a really good year. The Chargers, on the other hand, injured. Offensive line, brutal. They finished 11-6, second in the AFC West, 20th in points for. Defense really strong, 9th in points against. I think their strength is their quarterback and Jesse Minter's defense. Justin Herbert is a phenomenal talent, but he needs to get the monkey off his back. This playoff game is necessary. It is crucial for his resume, for his national respect. Personally, I value him separately away from the playoff wins. I think he's just a phenomenal player. But for people to give him respect, he needs this game. And he's 0-2 in his 2 playoff games. Like, this is super crucial. He doesn't really have the greatest of weapons, but it's also not it's not terrible. Like, he's got average weapons. McConkey, Keenan Allen, Johnston, Gatson. They all had around 600 to 800 yards this season. I think they need to get Quentin Johnston involved. He's going to need to be a deep threat for this team. He averaged 14.4 yards per reception this year. But I really do think the big thing they can bank on here is that defense. 2018 was the last season they had a top 10 defense. These past 2 seasons under Jesse Minter, they've had that. And they've been really, really good, a really solid unit. I just get concerned because they're not all that healthy on the offensive line. You lose Rashawn Slater for the entire year IR. Joe Wall barely played IR, although he was a Pro Bowl selection with 6 games, which is pretty interesting, I guess. Justin Herbert needs to have the game of his life. And he is the X factor, and this game is crucial for his resume behind a terrible offensive line. Herbert's been sacked the 3rd most in the league this year. He's literally he's going to have to go out there and play Superman. Pretty much for the entire playoffs, but especially against his good Patriots defense. And there is not a shortage of good defenses in the AFC. I'll tell you that much, Steve.
So my take on this game is I look at New England and they don't feel like a team that can make a run, even as a 2 seed. But, I look at the Chargers because New England, they haven't been tested. And when they do get tested in the regular season, they had a losing record against teams below 500. Their quarterback's inexperienced. But then I look at the Chargers, and I see, they're going on the road. LA team in the cold. It can get wet, snowy, weird. They have injuries on the offensive line. New England is not a big sack team, but this could be a game where LA team, bad weather, missing a tackle or two, and New England, Mike Vrabel just amps them up, and they have probably the best defensive performance of their season, and it can get ugly for the Chargers offense. Their X factor is obviously their offensive line. Again, New England's defensive line is not good. As far as they don't get as many sacks as a Denver or a Houston. But you have a 3, 4, 5 sack game with Herbert hurting his hand, then it's kind of over for the Chargers. And for New England, if Drake May's comfortable, he's going to be slinging that pill better than pretty much anyone in the league as far as throwing it down the field. So I like the Patriots in this one just because I don't trust an LA team on the road. It's cold, it's wet, and you're with one of the worst offensive lines in the league. Your quarterbacks they did rest their starters the final week of the season, but he has the hand injury. I just like New England in this game. The Chargers, again, I'm not a team. I don't like limping in the playoffs. I don't.
The offensive line, the tackle's injured. It just stings. It stings because you actually made an effort to improve the offensive line, and it seems like you've gotten nowhere. My question for you, Steve, before I talk about the Patriots and my thoughts on them, is Justin Herbert good enough to you to take this team on his back and win a Super Bowl alone at his best? Let's say he plays his best football for 4 straight games. Is he single-handedly good enough to do it? Because personally, I think the world of him. I think he's a great talent. He just has all this weight, all this big monkey that's just hanging on his back year after year of like, you got to get a playoff win. If you're paying you that money, you kind of got to win a game when it matters.
Yeah, I don't think there's a quarterback in the world who is good enough. Maybe a quarterback ever who is good enough to win a Super Bowl with that offensive line. You need an offensive line to win. Maybe you get to a Super Bowl. Maybe you get to a conference championship. Remember the Bengals did with Joe Burrow all those years ago. But you're not winning the Super Bowl. You're not winning 4 games with that offensive line. You're just not. There's going to be a game where your defense doesn't show up and bail you out, and you have a 5-sack performance and you lose. So I think highly of Justin Herbert. Maybe not as high as I did 2 years ago, the playoff numbers, because this does feel like a big test for him. Because again, New England's defense isn't particularly great sacking the quarterback. If Herbert has another stinker, dude, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get real ugly. And I feel like the excuses are there for him, right? Hurt hand, missing a tackle or two. But I'm just seeing it now because the Houston game was really bad. If he's going to have these interception games, he has to play clean in this one. Clean. He's going to take some sacks. But if he cannot take 8 sacks and just keep it at like 2 or 3 and have no turnovers, because this Chargers defense is pretty good. And they're going to go up against a quarterback who is kind of inexperienced in this big stage here. But my X factor for New England, I know we're going to go to New England, is Travion Henderson. And when I look at this quarterback in his second season, the best thing you can do offensively is just take pressure off him. And if Travion, he has that Jahmyr Gibbs home run potential in him, where he can just go for a 60-yard touchdown, if he can bust 1 or 2 for 60 yards and have that Travion Henderson 30 fantasy point game where he's got 200 yards, 12 yards to carry, and he's got 2 touchdowns, then I don't think the Chargers have a shot, because that's like a blow the game open. Oh, the Patriots are about to win by 10 to 15. But that would take a lot of pressure off Drake May. So my X factor for the Chargers would be their offensive line. Can you not let Herbert get sacked more than 5 times? And for the Patriots, it would be Travion Henderson. But ultimately, I'm taking the Patriots in this game.
At the end of the day, I'm taking the Pats, too. It's a good point. You brought up Travion Henderson, Steve. I talked to my buddy Deshaun. Shout out to Deshaun, because we were talking about Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, and they really are kind of like a poor man's Gibbs and Monty, like you said, Steve. Like, Ramondre, he is good for what he does. Not the fastest running back. I watched him either against the Dolphins or the Jets get hawked down. It legitimately looked like there was a piano tied to his ass. Like, he is slow. But for what he does for this offense, he's very useful. And to have Travion Henderson, a guy that had a huge season, only 180 attempts, 911 rushing yards, and 9 touchdowns, that breakaway top-end speed, that can be big. It was really big in that Bucs game. That was a perfect example of where Travion Henderson shined, and early on, too, when he started getting more touches, it just hit a spark, and after that, the rest was history for him. So I think to take some pressure off Drake May, that would be huge. The Pats this year, they're second in points for, fourth in points against. Again, a very well-rounded team, although they haven't seen a ton of incredible competition. I do think that the record is somewhat reflective of how good they've been. Like, they've been a pretty good team, well coached under Mike Vrabel. They're going to get tested now for 4 straight games, so we'll be able to see whether or not they're the real deal. But I do think if their X factor, Drake May, can play like he has all year to be the MVP frontrunner, I believe in him because I like his play style. He had 4,400 yards on the year, 31 passing touchdowns, protect the ball, 72% completion percentage, best in the league, even with an average receiving core. maybe they can get it done here. People will say, oh, the defense has been weak against the run. Well, they were just missing Milton Williams, in my opinion. They get him back. I think they'll be a lot better on the interior there. I really do think their weakness is going to be the protection, like you said, Steve, and their receiving weapons. I would have loved to have a guy like Mac Hollins in this game who's on IR. His experience with my Buffalo Bills on crucial downs would have been big. So they're going to have to find somebody besides Stephon Diggs, somebody there, whether it's a tight end or a receiver to depend on for Drake May. But getting Will Campbell back, if they can protect him, I think they have a shot. Like, do you see a world where the Patriots go all the way and win the Super Bowl? Like, I think it's there. I think the AFC is tough with a team like the Jags, maybe the Bills. But outside of them, like, there are winnable games. The Broncos, they're good, but they're not the fanciest number one seed in the world. You know what I mean?
No, I don't see a world where that happens. Maybe they get to an AFC championship, but I think when you are, 1-2 against teams above 500 in the season, you're rarely tested, and when you do get tested, you fail the test more times than you pass it. No, I wouldn't bet on a team that has a losing record against teams above 500 when they barely played against teams above 500 to go all the way now.
Interesting. I have the Pats winning this game. You too. It'll be good to watch, see if Herbert can get his respect, maybe carve out a W here. Final game of the weekend, Texans at the Steelers on Monday night, Game 6. The rumor on the street is that Mike Tomlin doesn't lose on Monday night. The Steelers just sneak into the playoffs with a crazy win in Week 18 over the Ravens. I don't think any team will necessarily, any of those two teams, will necessarily or would have necessarily done much damage in the playoffs. But who knows? Like I said, you play Houston, offense is all right, I guess. Like, they're average. The defense is really good. But if you can overcome that, again, it's Denver. And Denver is the same kind of situation. The Texans, 12-5, 13th in points for, second in points against. Their strength, it's the whole damn defense. Everybody from top to bottom, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., putting pressure off the edge, your lockdown corners. You can believe in literally every player on the field for this Houston Texans defense. It honestly comes down to the offensive production. CJ Stroud is a great playoff performer. The majority of times we've seen him on a playoff stage, he's had really great games. He's won 2 playoff games in 2 years. Hasn't been elite since his rookie year, I'll say, but when the playoff comes around, he's usually there to deliver. And the defense, again, top 6 against the pass and pass yards, top 4 against the run and rush yards. Danielle Hunter, 15 sacks. Will Anderson, 12 sacks. They're just lethal. Like, they're a good team, but offensively, it's kind of scarce. Other than Nico Collins, who do they have? Like Woody Marks, Nick Chubb, Jaden Higgins, Dalton Schultz. These guys aren't needle movers for me. They're going to need someone to step up, and the number one guy who's going to have to do that is Nico Collins. Nico Collins is my X factor for this team. He needs to have big games in the playoffs to give CJ Stroud that momentum, because I don't trust anybody else on the offense here. I like the Texans in this game because Mike Tomlin's defense, we'll get to it, but is well known to fall apart in the playoffs. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not sold. This is more of a 50-50 than people think.
Yeah, well, I don't know what team to start. I'll start with Houston. I think a couple times I've been on the show, I've just been raving about this Texans defense. They're special. They're number 1 in total yards. They're also just 0.2 shy off being number 1 in total points. You just sit back and watch this defense. They fly off the screen. They got guys just zooming. They get to the quarterback, but they also are really good not allowing you to score a ton of points. In the secondary, and like you said, offensively, there's the question mark. It's C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, and who exactly? It's not like this big, explosive offense. And Stroud has played a role in that. But, yeah, I got Nico Collins as my X factor, too. If he can go downfield and have one of those Nico Collins, 7 catches, 110 yards, a touchdown games where he's just like going deep down the field. I remember the Indianapolis game, the first year they made the playoffs, the game that got him in. I think the first play of the game, Nico Collins scores a touchdown, and it was a deep ball, and that's like the kind of performance they're going to need to have because offensively it's pretty shaky. But I don't think they need to have too spectacular of an offensive game when you're playing the Steelers. Don't think the Steelers are that great of an offense. My X factor for them is DK Metcalf. He comes back from the suspension. Maybe he's all mad, pissed off, because they really need him in that one. Because this Steelers offense, it doesn't move me at all. And then you're going to put a 41-year-old quarterback with just one wide receiver against that defense. They'll be at home, but against that defense, to me, that just sounds like a recipe to lose that game. Like, 23-10? But if Aaron Rodgers was to pull this off, that's a cherry on top to a Canton legacy. Because you have one wide receiver, you're 41 years old, you're going up against that defense. And I don't know, what's the line in this game? I lost it. I think they are like minus, let me pull it up here, -3. Houston's the favorite. So +3 Pittsburgh at home. But I'm taking Houston in this one because also, like you said, too, Tomlin's defense in the postseason, they're not playing a great offensive Houston, but I saw him give up like 30 points to Baker Mayfield, Blake Bortles. Haven't won a playoff game since the Obama administration, and it's been primarily because they're giving up like 30 points a game defensively in the playoffs. So if this is a game where C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins are going to have a big one, it's going to be this one. And if this is a game where Fire Mike Tomlin starts getting, chanted, it's going to be this one as well.
After watching them on Sunday night against the Ravens, particularly Jalen Ramsey, who was a Pro Bowler this year, they were just torched. The secondary was torched. And Rodgers, I'll say this because my buddy Jordan, he's been harping on me because I was against Rodgers all year. And he said, you got to shout him out for me once because he did have a phenomenal game. And I'll give him that. Rodgers is very impressive. The great thing about Rodgers is he releases the ball super quickly. The quickest release time in the league. And my X factor, Dylan Cook, the tackle they got, has been phenomenal, shutting down some of the better edges in the game. So that will play to their advantage. Getting DK Metcalf back, huge. But there's that quote, Steve. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 5 times. Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. His defenses in those 5 games have averaged a total of 38.8 points against per game. The Steelers haven't scored more than 38 points this season. It's just hard for me to believe, even against a mediocre Texans offense, that this Steelers team can pull it off. But I'll give them the fact that they're at home. It's the cold. Aaron Rodgers just had a legacy performance, and this isn't necessarily a legacy-defining year for Raj. He's walking straight into Canton. He's a future Hall of Famer, one of the best, if not the best, pure passers of the football we've ever seen. It's not like Stafford showing up to LA needing to win some playoff games, a Super Bowl, to get it under his belt, get a resume builder. Rodgers has had his career. This run in itself to make the playoffs, the game he had, was phenomenal. I just don't love the team. I don't love Tomlin's defense, which consistently falls apart in the playoffs. I don't like the lack of talent offensively. I will say Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Warren, they've been not too bad. DK Metcalf coming back. They have some pieces, but Rodgers was throwing to who last game? Adam Thielen, Scotty Miller, Pat Freiermuth. Like, I didn't even know these guys were still playing. And that was the Ravens secondary without Kyle Hamilton for the back half of the game. Now you go to Houston. Now Houston comes to you, but you're playing a great secondary. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., if they get to Rodgers, I mean, we saw what they did against Cleveland, right? Yeah. Like we saw the Steelers damn near lose the division.
I was going to bring that up, actually. Listen, the Steelers offense, it's not the worst thing in the world, but they do have their best games against not so great defense. You think about 26 against Baltimore, 29 against the Lions, 28 against the Dolphins, 28 against the Bears, 34 against the Bengals. So if you look at their points per game, it's actually better than the Eagles. But then you realize, they're having their best games against bad defenses. But then you look, 6 points in Cleveland, 7 points against the Bills, 10 points against the Chargers. You start playing better defenses. This Steelers offense doesn't look nearly as good. And you consider that they're going to play one of the better defenses of this decade in Houston. It just doesn't sound like a recipe for Mike Tomlin getting his first playoff win since 2016.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're a Legion of Boom, but like they deserve some kind of recognition here as one of the more premier defenses we've seen as of recent. Like Houston's defense is a very big problem, and it can single-handedly win them games, and it brought them into the playoffs, right?
They take them to the Super Bowl. They can take them to the Super Bowl. Their defense is like Denver Broncos, no-fly zone, good enough, where they let the bracket fill out the right way, that they can go win a Super Bowl just on the defense.
Right. And when you have a quarterback like Stroud who will give you good playoff performances and can put up like a good 20 points, that's pretty much all you need. Now, I don't think they'll go all the way, but it's just hard for me to believe that the Steelers, who already had this lucky, great Aaron Rodgers performance, but lucky missed field goal to send them to the playoffs, are going to have all this luck on their side going into the playoffs through this run. So that's a wrap on all 6 wildcard games, Steve. We haven't given any Super Bowl predictions yet. To be honest with you, I have no freaking clue. I have no clue.
I won't have one until Friday.
Me neither.
Maybe like Saturday before our first kick. I won't have one. I really got to go in the tank here and just like think who do I want. Because I'm looking at the bracket and it's just like, oh man, like I want to say Buffalo, but then they got the Jags who are rolling. So who am I supposed to pick out the AFC? I'll say right now, I don't think the Super Bowl winner is going to be out the AFC. I think it's going to be one of these NFC teams, and I have to decide who. But if you want an early pick, I'll probably say Philadelphia because they're the reigning champs. But the safest pick's the Rams.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I am pumped for the playoffs. If you stuck through to the end, I appreciate you. We're cutting up the segment, but I guess that doesn't really matter to you. Thank you guys so much for the support, Steve. It was a pleasure. Hopefully we'll get you on next week for another playoff recap, brother.